Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. We are pleased to be joined, well, as always, by Ben Schneider, of course, my fellow co-host on Grid Encore tonight, which is on every Monday night on Grid Network, along with myself, Brandon Crosland, and Joshua Birch. I think I got that all. So yeah, should be fun stuff here. But obviously, when Ben comes on, you know what we're going to talk about. The latest game shows as all the premieres have kind of came out. I know Lingo's coming up here pretty soon with that should be pretty exciting. But overall, how do you think they're going so far?
I think things have gone pretty well. I must admit it's been tough for me to catch the CBS shows because I work in the mornings and everything. So I have caught up on a little bit of Price is Right. I know there was a primetime episode at some point last week. I think it was like a Twins special that they were doing. So I watched that. Haven't gotten to see Let's Make a Deal, though, although I hear that not too much has changed over there. New seasons of Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, I think, have gotten off to a good start. We've got the Second Chance tournament and the Tournament of Champions, an epic Tournament of Champions coming up in the next couple of weeks here, so that should be exciting. And then obviously the celebrity versions, which I know we'll get into in just a little bit here. I also have to say Pictionary is now game show in syndication, so I did watch an episode of that. They've been posting some full episodes to their YouTube channel. So there was an episode with Melissa Peterman and Jaleel White, which was kind of interesting. But it's a fun little low budget show that they've got going. I don't know how many seasons it's going to make it. I haven't seen too many promos for it and everything, so it might be a one and done or a two and done. But it's always interesting when a lot of times I think we see game shows get turned into home games, game show video games, game show board games, and seeing how they can pull that off. But it's rarer. I think Scrabble is probably the biggest example of a board game that got turned into a game show that had some success. They tried to do some Monopoly shows a couple of times that didn't last for too long. So we'll see. This isn't the first attempt at a Pictionary game show, so we'll see how long it goes. But I think for the most part, the fall premiere season, it's gotten off to a good start.
Yeah, it has. I want to get your thoughts on the XL wedge that first week of Wheel of Fortune.
I mean, it was fine, I guess. I get that it's your 40th season. You want to give a little bit more money away. I understand that. I think it probably would have been overkill if they kept it for the entire 40th season. But, Price is Right did that for their 50th season last year. They had some $1 million opportunities their first week and, did some other specials throughout the year. So I get it for a big milestone season. Jeopardy did the Battle of the Decades for their 30th season, and then they'll have their 40th season coming up next year. So I'm sure I've listened to the Inside Jeopardy podcast. I'm hearing Michael Davies dream of these like Jeopardy Masters tournaments, and even thinking about, is there a way we could do Jeopardy live? And looking at the studio desk that they've got now for the episode that Ken and Mayim were both on in the podcast, I've got to think that you have like an ESPN studio kind of table there. I've got a feeling that's going to be used for more than just a podcast. So I think he's got some pretty grand plans, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they are.
It's going to definitely be weird if having that tournament, obviously, this would be the first one without Alex Trebek there. So that's definitely going to be a little weird.
Well, it'll be the second. Buzzy Cohen hosted the first year when they were doing all the guest hosts. But right. First tournament champions in a couple of years, because there was no tournament champions last year. Of course, they've expanded the field a bit from 15 to 21. So, and no wild cards this year. And the three biggest super champions all getting a bye into the second round. It's going to throw an interesting dynamic into things. So, and then of course the finals will be a best of three. So there's no guarantee. It could go as few as 3 games. It could go as many as 7 games, kind of like the GO tournament. So, it's a bit of an interesting format change, but we'll see how this tournament goes.
Yeah, well, we'll get to them. Okay, we talked about Jeopardy. I know you have some thoughts on the Celebrity Jeopardy, and now the Triple Jeopardy. I remember when I saw that, I immediately texted you. I was like, oh, he's going to have a problem with this.
Yeah, well, do you just want me to go? And
the floor is yours, buddy.
Yeah, the first episode I thought was all right. I was kind of along the same lines of whoever's running the Buzzer Blog account. I said, first episode was okay. The second, it became apparent that I don't think this is working, and I'll tell you why. I understand what they were trying to do with the Triple Jeopardy and everything. I get that you wanted to make it an hour-long show, for prime time and everything. But I just think the GOAT tournament proved that you can do 2 games in an hour show. The college tournament, the college championship, proved that you can do 2 full normal episodes of Jeopardy into an hour-long episode. So I get that, they want to ensure that they get through all the clues and allow for the celebrities to have a little bit more banter with one another. And you can tell they're a lot less tight with the editing, with how much the celebrities are going back and forth. And that's to be expected, but, obviously celebrities are playing, a little bit more casually and a little bit more laid back. But I struggle with the tone of what's going on here as well, because, it's $1 million tournament. So the stakes aren't exactly going to be super laid back when it comes time for the finals and everything. And I just contrast that with the $1 million celebrity invitational they did. I think I was in 2010, somewhere around that time, that Michael McKean won. And, I just think casting is so important. I know you and I have talked about that before. I've talked about that with a lot of other people. I think that's most apparent on Weakest Link and the revival there. The contestants that they cast, they don't know how to bank. They don't know how to run a chain. They don't know how to play the game and maximize their output in their bank. And I think the celebrities that they've chosen here, first of all, I'm not super into pop culture and everything, but a lot of these celebrities that they're choosing, that they've cast, I know very little to nothing about. I know they had Simu Liu, the star of Shang-Chi, the Marvel movie, on the first episode. I know Jalen Rose is going to be on as well.
Andy Rickard is on.
Andy Rickard, yes, that's true. But aside from that, there's when I look at these names, I think back to the Millionaire shows that they did in 2000 when Celebrity Millionaire first started. And, of course, Drew Carey won $500,000. Rosie O'Donnell, Norm Macdonald, they had great runs. You had people like Tyra Banks and Ray Romano and Lance Bass, and, the list goes on and on and on. Charlie Sheen was on a later edition of that, John Lovitz. Stop me whenever you like. They did so many celebrity specials and things like that, but they were always with A-listers. And, no disrespect to anybody that's playing right now, but again, I think generally speaking, for the general population might not know some of these names, and it becomes harder to draw people in that way. So, and to go back to the Triple Jeopardy thing, because I know you wanted my thoughts on that.
Yes.
I don't like the fact that they reduced, like the single Jeopardy is now $100 to $500. Triple Jeopardy is $3 to $15. I would have liked to have seen, if you're going to do a Triple Jeopardy, go from 2 to 4 to 6, because now it's just, the dollar amounts are all worth the same. We've just stretched it out into an hour-long episode. But then it doesn't even matter, because I don't even remember her name, whoever won the second episode, I think had a total of like 14,000 or something.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, the 2 runners up, we're going to donate $30,000 to your charity. So you see on the podiums, the winning score is lower than the 2 consolation prizes. Yeah. So it's like, if we're giving away $30,000 anyway, and I guess it doesn't matter, because, we'll see I don't know what the semifinal prizes are going to be, or, the runners up. I know the $1 million is the grand prize, but, it's like, well, if we're not really playing for money anyway, I guess, it doesn't matter. Like, why not just use points like we did in the GOAT tournament, since we weren't playing for money there? We were just playing for $1 million. So I don't know. I feel like it's still Jeopardy. I'm still going to watch it. I just might, we do a grid show every Sunday night. Yeah. So, am I going to go out of my way to catch the, airings on Hulu the next day or whatever? I did that for the college championship if I missed it. Obviously, tried to watch the GOAT tournament live and primetime Jeopardy there. I think that this might be one of Michael Davies' first misses as executive producer. Ooh. And I have sung praises to his name. You follow me on Twitter. You've seen, like doing the Inside Jeopardy podcast to give us the transparency that Mike Richards definitely did not give us through the whole guest host parade and everything. Obviously, like these dreams that he has, like I was mentioning, of bringing super champions back for a Masters tournament and trying to do Jeopardy live, and who else knows what all is turning in his head and everything. And the Hall of Fame that they just had that started last week, just to see Johnny Gilbert go in and Harry Friedman, and to honor Alex Trebek and Mervyn, Julian Griffin. I think that those are all great and great initiatives that he's taken. But I do start to like, I understand the perspective that people are looking at him trying to mess with the format a little bit, and he's even said, I think, Jeopardy is an institution, you don't want to mess with it too much, but
No, you don't.
this triple Jeopardy thing, I think it was, I'm glad he experimented with it, in a separate spin-off show, primetime show, rather than on the syndicated show. But
Right.
I don't think that's worked out very well. I think this idea that he has to give contestants a cash bonus to, if they run a category, get all 5 clues right in a single category and give them a cash bonus. I get the idea that you want to reward a contestant like that. I would just hope that if he does that, or if the show does that, that doesn't, like, that's a separate thing from the final scores that impact, the wager and totals and everything like that. And also, James Holzhauer was, just the latest person that I think really maximized it, but they call the strategy the Forest Bounce. It's named after a contestant named Chuck Forrest, who, was the first one to really maximize that strategy. It's searching for the daily doubles and kind of bouncing around the board and trying to keep the other contestants from getting into a rhythm by running a category. So, nowadays more than ever, you really don't see contestants as much try to go from 200 to 1,000 in sequential order to run categories like that. So I think the ship might have even sailed on that one a little bit. But like I said, it's still Jeopardy at its core. It's been around for almost 40 years now.
Right.
Even longer if you want to go back to the Art Fleming version. The reason the show works at the end of the day is because it's a format that is just so perfect and so brilliant. And at its core, that's what it still is. So is Celebrity Jeopardy the worst thing that has been on ABC in this era of game show revivals? Absolutely not. But at the same time, it's a pretty distant third behind the GOAT tournament and the college championship in terms of primetime Jeopardy for me.
For sure. It kind of does Triple Jeopardy kind of remind you when Wheel of Fortune a couple years ago introduced that triple toss-up thing?
I hadn't made that connection. I guess a little bit. I'm not particularly fond of the triple toss-up either. I think it's just very time consuming. And again, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to give more money away, and you have 3 puzzles that are closely related to one another, and seeing if somebody can run all 3 of those puzzles and give them another cash bonus for that.
$1,000 if you get all 3.
Yeah, 10,000 if you get all 3. So I think it's a nice idea. I just don't know in execution if it's worked as well as the producers might have thought it did. Although I guess it's worked well enough that they haven't gotten rid of it yet. But I think I always like seeing the final puzzle before the final spin. How much time do we have? Sometimes if the pace of the episode has been moving along quickly, you can get an extra puzzle in, or sometimes even an extra 2 puzzles in if there's enough time at the end of the episode. Now it's a lot harder to do that because you don't just have 1 toss-up to go through, you have 3 toss-ups to go through. So I think it's a time consumption issue as well.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. I know we didn't really talk about this, and I don't know if we mentioned this, but have you watched the 20 words or less that Meredith Vieira is doing? Have you watched that?
25 words or less?
25 words or less. I knew it was
yes.
one of those numbers.
I've caught an episode of that. I actually, you want to talk about a board game. That's a board game that became a game show, and then the game show became a board game again. So actually I have both the original board game and the new board game that just came out.
Nice.
With Meredith on the cover and everything. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun little show again. I don't know that it's got like a super long-term future to become one of the classic syndicated game shows like Jeopardy and Wheel and Family Feud or anything, but it's kind of like a celebrity name game to me. I don't know if you remember that one that Craig Ferguson hosted,
Yep,
but I think it's definitely a solid format, and obviously Meredith has plenty of game show experience, having done Millionaire for 11 seasons. So again, it's not something that I like go out of my way to watch every day, but if it's on, if I'm just like channel surfing and I see that it's on, I'll change the channel and I'll watch an episode, or I'll catch some highlights or clips that they post on social media. So I like it. It's a pretty good show.
Do you think the syndicated Millionaire would come back?
I don't see that coming back. I think if you're going to do Millionaire again, which by the way, I keep hearing that it's parked at ABC, but there was a cryptic tweet from Michael Davies replying to a Buzzer Blog tweet that said, like, this idea that it's canceled is laughable. So you might not see it in the immediate future, but I'm sure it's never going to go away forever. I mean, it's a classic enough show at this point in a solid enough format that you'll see it at some point again. But I think it works so much better as an hour show than a half-hour show. And I think it's certainly, capitalized on the success of its primetime run the best. Because, Deal or No Deal tried to go into syndication. Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader tried to go into syndication. Weakest Link tried to go into syndication, and all of those only lasted a couple of years, whereas Millionaire lasted 17. So I think, Millionaire certainly had the most success out of any of those shows, even in primetime. It was able to ride that wave in syndication a little bit. But again, just it's a pacing issue as well. I think a lot of people forget when ABC first did it as event TV for those couple of weeks in August of 1999. It was a half-hour show then as well. And I remember Regis being interviewed in 2002, and he certainly was wishing Meredith all the best and everything with the new version, but I don't think he was convinced that it was going to last as long as it did, because he said, we tried being a half-hour show at the start, and we very quickly realized that if we're going to do the show well, we need to have a full hour of television to do that. So
they brought it back. Didn't they bring it back in like 2004 or something for a little bit?
Super Millionaire, yeah,
that's right.
That was a couple of special editions there.
The 10th anniversary in 2009.
Yeah,
and then they brought.
And then just a couple of years ago, Jimmy Kimmel. So
with Kimmel during.
Yeah. So I think it'll come back at some point. But when it does, it'll be in prime time. I don't see them trying to pitch it for syndication again. Yeah. I think it's ABC knows that they can bring it back every couple of years, and the diehards will get all excited about it. And, you're going to see if the lightning is never going to strike twice. You're never going to get 36 million people watched Rosie O'Donnell win $500,000. That's never going to happen again. And you have to have those expectations. So, but I think at the same time, enough people know what the show is and, get excited whenever, they see it come back, that, you want to bring it back in a few years. I think they'll certainly try it again and see how it goes.
For sure. Can I rant on Weakest Link for a sec? Because I want to talk. Sure. I tried watching it with, the new one with Jane Lynch and stuff. I went through the couple episodes and I was like, I can't watch this. It's it's so bad because the contestants don't know anything. Yeah,
no, it really is. I have to say, I like Jane a lot. I think she is.
Oh, she's a great host.
Yeah, she's as close to.
There's nothing against her, by the way.
Yeah, as close to Ann Robinson as you can get.
Absolutely.
Without getting Ann Robinson. But you're right. I don't want to steal the floor from you here, but I did a whole rant on my YouTube channel about it. I just, after the second season came out, after having to wait a full year for the second season, and now we might have to wait another year. I can't believe they renewed it. It sounds like they're casting again. But it just, and I hate it because I was so excited when I saw it was coming back, and Jane Lynch is going to host. How can you possibly not love that? And little did we know, they just, and the incremental money chains. It's not even the contestants a lot of times. It's the question writers asking, I think it's terrible that people used to call this guy the round mound of rebound. And I'm like, why can't you just say which NBA legend was nicknamed the round mound? The questions are.
Charles Barkley was nicknamed that though.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Well, that's just one example. I'm trying to think of another one. If Post Malone ordered 19 pies from Postmates or something like that, there's all sorts of questions where they just add so much fluff. And again, it's time consuming, because you're trying to bank all these dollar amounts and answer as many questions as you can within the time limit. And then, like I said, the chains going up in value, there's no reason to bank at the start of the first round. And then, contestants recognize that, they don't recognize rather that the clock is running out of time and they have a couple of questions answered and then they don't bank. It's just, I could go on for, half an hour on that alone. And, all my problems with the Weakest Link as it is right now. So I don't know. I hope that there are good people working on the show that can recognize what the viewers are saying and how they're reacting to it. And, that you had a format that worked in the early 2000s that didn't need any fixing or anything, and they decided to fix it anyway. Fixing what isn't broken, I think, very rarely works out for people in television. And I think this is no exception here.
Yeah. Last couple things. What's your favorite Let's Make a Deal game?
Probably car pong. I don't know. I like the games where contestants are playing for cars. I think, I always like seeing big winners and everything. And so, that's probably my favorite Let's Make a Deal game. The Let's Make a Deal games, I feel like, like Plinko and Cliffhangers on The Price is Right are like iconic parts of the show. Let's Make a Deal hasn't been around as long. So I'm trying to think of the names of even a couple of other recurring games, because a lot of times it's just Wayne Brady saying, do you want what's behind curtain number 2, or do you want to take what's in the small box over here? And it's not, it's just
remember
kind of a part of the show.
Well, there's Go for a Spin.
That's true. Yeah.
There's Gold Rush, or Gold Rush, or I think I said that right. Trying to think about the one where where you break the piggy banks and stuff.
Sure. Yeah, I forget what that's called, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Trying to think of what trying to, and then they have all these other things that they have or something.
Yeah.
I see Price is Right's added like a couple new ones. I haven't really watched it yet, but they still have like, still need to keep some of like the classic stuff. Like a game I can't stand is like the ones where really you can't win at. Pathfinder, that's the one I can't stand. It's like
Pathfinder and
wants to win.
Yeah, 3 Strikes is another one. I mean, it's just like it's so hard to win. Like I get that, when you're playing for a car, you can't exactly make it super easy, but at the same time, especially like I watch the old Barker episodes on Pluto sometimes, and back then, with inflation, everything, cars only took up 4 digits. So 3 Strikes was hard, and I watched 3 Strikes on the 1982 Price is Right and 1983 episodes, and I see very few contestants win those, and now you have an extra digit to worry about, and it's like, well, it means it was already hard enough to win, and now you have to get one more digit after that. It's it's very difficult, and Pathfinder is another good example there that you brought up.
The grocery game's another. It's not for a car, but sometimes they play it for a car. But the grocery game's really tough too.
Yeah.
That one, and trying to think of another one. One Away gets everybody most of the time.
Yeah, One Away, and That's Too Much. That's another one that I feel like it's almost like a lottery there. That it's very difficult. Like unless you are really into cars and generally speaking what the price might be. A lot of it just comes down to luck, and I'm not. I like Plinko, but the reason it's not my absolute favorite is because you can get only one chip, like miss all 4 of the smaller pricing items to get the 4 extra chips. You can only have the one chip they give you for free, and you can walk away with 10 grand. Or you can also get all 4 of those, so then go up with 5 chips, and they all land in the 0 slot. So a lot of it comes down to luck too. I tend to like the games that are a little bit more skill based.
Yeah, it's I think the Cliffhangers is definitely something.
Yeah, Cliffhangers is probably my favorite, and it's one of the more iconic ones as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's like because usually most people end up winning that one. If I'm not mistaken, I know. It's like you have to guess in a wide range of price range or something. It's like unless you're really, really off, you can win.
Yeah. Well, because you have an average of $8 or $9 to work with for each of the 3 items. So as long as you don't completely miss one, like say it's worth $50 and you say it's only worth 20, and then that's your game right there. Like, of course, then like if you mess up that badly on one of them, it's hard to win. But as long as you're in the general area on most of them, you see a lot of winners on that game.
I still see that they haven't packed the crowds yet on The Price is Right and Let's Make a Deal. It's still the sparse crowd.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I don't know. Go ahead.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's impossible not to notice. You see the packed in audiences from the older shows and everything. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's just like, I don't know if people are still concerned about COVID, or if it's
CBS.
Or it might be more of an aesthetic design as well. Or I don't know if Let's Make a Deal is going to continue to allow contestants to play from home and not even have to make a trip out. I think that might be a nice option for some people, but Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I don't know if they're going to go back. I know Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune brought the audiences back this year, which is nice to see. But yeah, I don't know if you'll see the full audience on Price is Right again. We'll see if and when that comes
I
back.
think you will. I think maybe if you don't see it next season, you probably won't see it
Sure.
at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be, as things kind of start to come back, and know that there may be still some COVID restrictions somewhere we don't know about, but I don't know what the restrictions are in LA County, because I believe that is where Television City is. So we'll just have to see. But if you don't see any changes by, let's say, next season, then I think that might be the step going forward. And I don't mind, less is, as they always say, less is more, right? So just have
Sure.
to
Yeah.
have to go from there. All right. Besides people getting shut out of millions of dollars, Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah.
So we'll call this one a day. Ben, thanks so much for coming on and talking with us, and we'll maybe have you on again in a few months to catch up, maybe after the Tournament of Champions and stuff.
Yeah, I'll be keeping a close eye on that. And like I said, it's a stacked field. So, even if you're just a casual Jeopardy viewer, make sure you're tuning in next month for that, because it's going to be, I wish it were on in prime time. It's going to be a very, very strong field, and I'm sure you're going to see some epic games of Jeopardy. So stay tuned for that.
Absolutely.